Good evening and welcome to Collector Cars. I'm Lance, your host. With me in the studio, it's going to turn into the Bill and Bill show again. Mr. Bill Trier, how you doing?
Lance.
With Collector Car Appraisals.
Yes. And we're here full of gas tonight.
And yeah, full of gas tonight. Yep. That's right. And he is too. He's telling you the truth. And Mr. Bill Mergens.
Good evening. Good evening, Lance.
The cruising photographer. How we doing?
Oh, you know when Bill Trier comes on, you know what happens?
What happens?
We all learn something.
Yes. Yes. You know, I'm loving this, and I've had a lot of comments. The rides of the presidents, the first one, the horse-drawn carriages, they liked it, but it wasn't really the car thing. They said it was very neat, it was interesting. The second one has drawn a bigger response, only because it's, you know. And I noticed they stole your idea. They've had it on, what is it, ABC, CNN, whatever, on the TV thing.
That's right.
They're doing things on the president's cars. Hey, you saw it here first.
Took it right off
you saw it here.
show.
That's right. They took it right off my show.
Right off your
Did you get any royalties on that?
No.
I'm talking to him.
Just
Oh.
complaints. I just get the complaints.
Hey, we got to clarify who you're talking to now.
Well, I was looking at it.
Do you know who you're talking to?
Yeah.
Do we know what we're
Been
saying?
hanging around Vinny too long. This has been great, man. I love it. We did the rides of the presidents. We did the very first one on the Woodies, which is kind of what prompted this. And now tonight is the evolution of the filling station. And I'm sure you're going to educate us on how it was back in your day. I mean, back in the beginning.
in the day.
Yes.
In the day.
Thank you.
There you go. Thank you. I just had a problem selecting my words.
But he did get that out. That's okay.
We had another great weekend, car shows. We had some beautiful shows this weekend. Did our first show at Marco's Pizza. I guess we had about 70, 75 cars. Gorgeous sunny day. There is nothing that perks me up like this time of year. The weather's great. Everybody's coming out. The snowbirds are down. They're bringing different cars. It's fantastic. I mean, I'm loving it. Loving the cars, loving the people.
And there's more and more of them. There's just more and more cars.
Hooters, 164, 165 cars. Now that's a turnout.
I've noticed how many people are bringing cars down more and more this year, just for the winter, and then they take them back.
Just for the winter, take them back, you know. And a lot of these folks have other cars, and they'll bring a different one each year, things like that. So it's pretty neat stuff. So anyway, I'm loving all of that. What I want to do is, why don't we get right into the clip, because this is going to be some neat stuff. So Mr. Perkins, when you're ready.
Well, you know, 1901, filling an automobile tank full of gasoline was a task. It was really removed from the simplicity and the convenience of today's modern gas station. And when you were driving your 1901 horseless carriage on a dirt highway presented in a view like this, there's no filling stations in sight, and gasoline was a waste byproduct with little use. Bulk tanks were located outside of towns and at homes with gasoline that was delivered by horse-drawn tankers. Later on, gas was purchased by the bucket from a general store for 3 cents a gallon and strained through a chamois into your car. For very long trips, you shipped your gasoline usually ahead by railroad. Around 1905, pumps like this appeared by the curb. You had to hand pump the gas yourself. And often the curbside service was a drum on a wooden stand with a garden hose attached. By 1906, the curb hand pump was enclosed in a cabinet along with a hand air pump. Running out of gas was about as common as having a flat tire, and farmers often made a lot of extra cash hauling a car that ran out of gasoline into town behind a team of horses. The general store soon became a store with auto supplies, and the pump was placed by the front porch, thus coining a new name, filling station, around 1907. You could buy oil, tires, tubes, sodas, and other necessities. Now, walking through the front door, you found this 100-year-old convenience store. It was usually occupied with the town's older gentry, kind of just hanging out, providing directions, and a little bit of the local town gossip. Modern conveniences like this behind the store were welcome, and you no longer had to find a grove of trees alongside the road. For your unmentionable duties, high-class privies were also stocked with corn cobs at no extra charge. As filling stations drew more patrons, larger consumer relief facilities were needed. And this double privy might make you ponder about, well, what happened to the lower occupant when that upstairs facility was also in use? Oh boy, those must have been the good old days. Early 1900 motorists also needed repairs not available at the filling station, so they headed for the local blacksmith shop. The blacksmith soon learned the rudimentary mechanics of simple auto repairs, and thus were born your first auto mechanics. The era of 1915 found filling stations digging a hole over which a crude ramp was placed, and thus the name filling station was changed to service station. Undercarriage repairs and servicing were accomplished with this sort of setup. Service stations started blossoming into this type of structure in the 1920s, and some offered an extended roof to shelter the gas customers. Service stations were becoming modernized with more than one choice of gasoline for sale now in a town. Motor oil was now offered in 1-gallon cans, such as this container from the 1920s. A full can such as this recently sold as a collectible at auction for $2,500. Some oil company signs are commanding astounding prices today. The 1930s service stations now added a polite, uniformed pump attendant who filled your tank, checked your oil, water, tires, and cleaned your windshield, all for 25 cents per gallon. And hey, do you remember that ding-ding of the bell as you drove over the rubber hose, and the bell in the pump proclaiming the delivery of each gallon into your car? Now, how many of you watching remember the gas ration stamps during World War II? The government told you how much gas per month you could have. You also had to have them for tires and batteries, and you had to have other kinds of stamps for bread and sugar and many other things. Government control today is really nothing compared to the days of World War II, when your movement in your car was very much restricted by the government. After World War II, gas was plentiful, and service stations created some weird structures to draw your attention to their business. A Shell oil station owner outdid himself with this clever design to remind you that he sold Shell gasoline. And the owner of this station, an ex-World War II pilot, purchased this B-17 bomber from war surplus, flew it to his town, and mounted it over his gas pumps. It would sure be interesting to know how many gallons of gas he had to pump to cover the cost of this novelty. Now, if this didn't draw your attention, and you're out in a desert, an iceberg in the middle of the desert was another sure way to attract motorists in non-air conditioned cars. With temperatures soaring past 100 degrees, this was no doubt a welcome sight, even if the ice was fake. And if an odd building didn't work as your better mousetrap, you made a claim to being the world's biggest or the largest station. I can only imagine the weekly payroll for all the attendants needed at this one. Or maybe they were on skates. Faster service helped to draw customers. Imagine juggling cans of open motor oil and wearing white trousers while on roller skates and working for 50 cents an hour, as this young attendant did. 8 hours of this must have been a real joy. Now, even before World War II, in the 20s, unique ways of beating a competition were devised. Early gas wars were appearing to be the attention getter of the day to lure customers. And I'll just bet you a lot of those radiators boiled over in line. In the 1950s, we found many businesses staying open at night, and service stations were no exception, especially